in or out. Next June 23, the British population goes to the poll to decide whether to stay with the European Union or to say farewell to Brussels. The last time the British people did that was in 1975, just barely 2 years after they joined the then European Economic Community. Why should the British decision to exit from the European Union concern an ordinary world citizen? And how should the world interpret a possible British departure from the European Union? My guest today has been living and working as a journalist in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for the past 20 years and is the editor-in-chief of Cameroon CONCORD, an online newspaper, the equivalent of what the Nigerians will call Sahara reporters. Agboy Baisote, welcome to GLOBEWATCH.
It's my pleasure.
Jean-Marie Atangana is a Cameroonian student sitting the competitive entrance examination into the Cameroon's Institute for International Relations, IRIC. And in front of him is a topic which has to do with British exit from the European Union. What should he start by telling his examiner?
He should be saying that Britain is going to stay within the European Union. And he should go further by saying that Britain is just struggling to get assurances that they are not going to be bailing countries in the Eurozone that are bankrupt.
Jean-Marie Atangana probably needs background material to situate the European Union UK relationship, especially when it comes to Brexit exits, like the newspaper will put it. What kind of useful background material should he provide to his examiner?
Well, if you look at the relationship between Britain and the EU, is so complex that you cannot resolve it just by an in or out referendum. So we should be careful here. What he should be looking after is a simple fact that the UK stands to gain more in the EU context than going out of the EU.
You just said that Jean-Marie Atangana should be telling the examiner that the UK stands to gain more in staying with the European Union. Probably he should give the audience or his examiner what exactly David Cameron struck a few weeks ago in Brussels. When we say the British have obtained a special status within the European Union, what should he be explaining?
Well, after 2 days and nights of intensive and productive discussions in Brussels, the Belgian capital, Cameroon announced that he had a deal with the other 27 leaders of the European Union, and that the UK's departure from the EU will, in his own words, a leap in the dark. So what did he achieve in that meeting? Cameroon was given assurances that the UK was going to supervise the free financial markets. Cameroon was told that Britain has a right to put in tough laws to restrict migrants and other EU commerce.
Border controls,
and to get involved into the UK welfare system. Cameroon was also given assurances that there were going to be exchange of intelligence in counter-terrorism measures. Cameroon was also given assurances that the UK will keep the pound. And so this is what your student should be saying.
And you said that my student, or this student, Jean-Marie Atangana, who is a symbol of many students who are writing the competitive entrance examination, should be saying that the British stand to gain more by staying in the European Union. What arguments accounts for that?
This is one thing. He had this deal in Brussels, but the truth collapsed immediately when Mayor Boris Johnson said he was going to campaign.
We are coming into that for the moment, but I just want Jean-Marie Atangana to tell his examiner what exactly the UK stands to gain by staying with the European Union.
For example, they are enjoying some kind of cheap labor from the Eastern European newcomers of the EU. So they are protecting the British economy. They work there, they pay taxes there, they consume British. The UK is benefiting from a market where millions of people have the power of the purse, I told you before. So any right-thinking student of international relations should understand that if you are dealing with a market that has, a huge potential buyers, that has this to and fro, that influences your economy positively, you should be staying in that kind of a block.
But you know that David Cameron is of the conservative movement in the UK, and it's even quite historically surprising that a conservative prime minister in the United Kingdom should be campaigning for continuous British membership of the European Union. You know the stories of Margaret Thatcher, pay back our money, and other conservative governments. But in that mix of issues, you have the mayor of London, Boris Johnson, who is equally a member of the Conservative Party, who says that he will be campaigning for the UK leaving the European Union. How do you explain that dichotomy? How should Jean-Marie Atangana explain such contradictions to his examiner?
Well, there are two things. I mean, that's a very catchy question. There are two things. One person told the world that I'm not going in for re-elections. All what I'm doing is in the best interest of this great country. Another person sees himself as a future prime minister. That's Boris Johnson. So I think Johnson is trying to put himself in a comfortable position. On the other hand, Cameron found himself in an unprecedented fracas. Do you know what that means in English? Unprecedented fracas? It means never known to have happened before, where a prime minister sees his own hardcore members or cabinet ministers rebuting what he's saying in the House of Commons.
One of those issues that David Cameron succeeded to secure in Brussels was that London, the current European financial capital, should continue to have a special status and free from the Eurozone politics, monetary politics. But it's quite shocking that the mayor of London should be opposing such a special arrangement, which, if not agreed, will see Europe's largest bank, HSBC, leaving. But they have agreed to keep their headquarters in London. Why should a mayor of a city that stands to gain so much from being part of the European Union be saying, this is nonsense, alongside people like George Galloway?
Well, if you remember, he actually said Cameron was celebrating a victory after he struck this deal. And that in some way he said it was a hollow deal. But the truth is, Boris Johnson sees himself as the next British Prime Minister. And he believes that the time is now. He needs to hang on to the fact that British people are saying, let's to hell with this EU bureaucracy. We do not believe that somebody should sit in Brussels and tell us what to do here. So Boris Johnson is playing this card. I do not believe that, even though I spoke to one of his closest associates who said Boris means out to him means out, but I do not believe that Boris as Prime Minister will pull the UK out of the EU.
Probably what Jean-Marie Atangana will be calculating in his mentality to provide as a suitable answer for his examiner to secure entrance into the competitive entrance examination into Cameroon's International Relations Institute vis-a-vis the European Union British equation is to establish to me what the British may lose by not being part of the European Union.
First of all, the leader of the Labour Party had accused Cameron of scaremongering, saying that Cameron issued a statement that if we pull out of the European Union, London will be at risk of terrorist attacks. Now, a lot of things come into play here. There is a massive flow of business between the UK and the EU. Now, if you move away from that, except under what he called special...
Plus £50 billion a year.
We are talking about billions of dollars here in trade. And I did say to you that if you are avoiding the EU market, you have just one option, it's China. And if you, the whole concept of this referendum coming up in June is about migration. So if you say you don't like European migration, are you going to accept Chinese migration? So this is it's a very complex situation. What I think is there are some people there, I call them some conservatives or neocons within the Conservative Party.
Since people who believe that so as it was in the beginning, so shall it be at the end,
Yes,
forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. So they think that we can enjoy the good things that come from globalization and reject the bad ones, But the truth is, you have to accept all. If you want to accept cheap labor from Poland, you should also accept that Polish people are going to be your neighbors and be making the noise you are getting on the streets of Leicester and Coventry and even London.
You see, during the last British general elections, which almost produced a hung parliament, almost.
It did.
It did, almost. You have parties, the traditional British parties, the Labour Party, the Conservative, the Scottish, and whatsoever. You had people with polarized opinions who could not agree on framing something of a consensus, fighting for leadership. But when it comes to the European Union equation, all these parties which were opposing each other say that, look, we have to stay with the European Union. How should Jean-Marie Atangana explain such political misconstrues to his examiner?
I think, you see, if you look at the whole equation there, those who are advocating that the UK should pull out of the EU, they have so far advanced two examples, Norway and Switzerland, saying that they function within the EU using different rules, that the European Union does not have a control over their banking system, doesn't have
like Switzerland.
Switzerland and Norway. But the truth is, I have used a train from Düsseldorf to Zurich.
Düsseldorf in Germany.
Yes, to
Zurich in Switzerland.
Right as far as Bern. You still feel, es gibt diese deutsche Einfluss. Yeah? It means that it gives this, you feel the German influence in all those places. I am not so sure that, mindful of what they might say, that we have to stick within the EU. Two powers within the EU will have to determine how this special status of the UK.
And which are those powers?
Germany and France.
But do you know that France is like one French political analyst qualified it a few days ago. François Hollande is a finished man. You have Angela Merkel, whose migration policies are increasingly becoming counterproductive. And that brings me to ask the question if British exit is not a destruction of the entire European Union project.
It cannot be. It cannot be because, first of all, Europe was not built on persons. It was not built on Holland and Angela Merkel. Europe was built on strong institutions. Those institutions have the way to work. Britain, as I tell you, take it or leave, is under strong European Union influence. First of all, it's visa-free traveling from UK citizens into the EU territory.
Probably nobody disputes that, but the issue at stake here is that some analysts have brought the idea that the British special status may have a contagious effect in the whole of the European Union. Because even in Germany today, okay, people are saying that if you can give the British special social welfare status, benefits in particular when it comes to children, that the parity should be at the level of their home countries, then we should equally be having that. After all, we are the paymaster general of Europe.
Yes, but this is one. The Irish tried that with the Polish people. It didn't work. What we are saying, it is all about the newcomers of the Eastern Bloc asking that child benefits should be paid to the children who are living back home in their various countries. But again, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. The big deal should be the financial contribution that the UK, Her Majesty's government makes to the European Union. And to me, which is insignificant. The long and short of it all is, leave or not
But you
leave.
know that yearly, the money that the UK spends for the EU budget, which should be about 20 billion pounds or 14 billion pounds, something of that nature, is more than the amount of money yearly the British spent on railway and roads reconstruction and maintenance. So they spend time sponsoring a project which has to benefit others, and then they forget their own infrastructural development at the expense of Europe.
Well, if you say that, you are sounding too conservative. The truth is, statistics have shown that they are giving much money than they spend on the rails. But what we should all accept is a good thing. You need to cooperate with, and for Britain to survive, for Britain to be secure, for Britain to be prosper, for Britain to be strong, you need the European support. So I don't think, how do you, I mean, look at even the population, the migrants coming to the UK. They're not just coming, they're coming with a lot of, services to offer the British economy and the British people.
The last G20 finance ministers meeting, which held in Shanghai a few days ago, concluded by saying that a British departure will be a global shock. End of quote. Jean-Marie Atangana is a student. When the G20 finance ministers say British departure from the European Union will be a global shock, how should he explain that to his examiner?
There's an influx of too many foreigners in this country. We want to control these things. We want to control the way we spend our money. We want to control the way we protect this country. So if you tell me that Britain leaving the European Union would be a shocker, they have never been a full-scale member of this body. They have always been playing hide and seek within the EU, but they have benefited from the EU.
You just said that the British have been playing a cat and mouse game within the European Union. This entire project of European Union, some of the founding fathers, the best, Winston Churchill, were British. The first time British people entered the European Union, then the European Economic Community, was in 1973 with the prime ministership of Edward Heath, if I have my statistics correct. And 2 years after, they held a referendum saying that, no, you say this is a nonsense. We have entered. Some of the best ideas for European construction and reconstruction have come from the British. How should Jean-Marie Atangana explain to his examiner why the British are a headache to the entire European Union idea?
They have to be, because they claim to have an empire where the sun never sets. There are a lot of things that the British run around the world. They have business interests flourishing in India, flourishing in the Far East, flourishing in the United Kingdom. In the United States of America, flourishing even in Africa. They have the Commonwealth of Nations. They have other groups, other clubs that make them feel that they have an empire. So all these things, they tell you 90-something% of their trade is not within the EU. So who cares? They want to concentrate on other things. But but to me and to many others around the world who are watching these political ramifications going on in the UK, is that they stand to be vulnerable, to a lot of things if they pull out of this block.
They have to pull out of this block. But you just put it so well that about 90% of British commercial or economic transactions or trade relations are outside of the European Union. And that is where the argument of Boris Johnson comes in very strong to say that, look, we do businesses across the world so well. If we continue to do businesses in particular with the Commonwealth member countries, it will be something more substantial and beneficial to us than with this union where we get orders from Brussels and this steps Her Majesty's government.
Charles, I'm not going to take Boris Johnson seriously. He has never been tested on foreign policy. All what he knows is to organize an Olympic Games in London.
Inexperience.
Inexperience
in politics should not be considered as a handicap, because Barack Obama was largely inexperienced before.
Barack
was a novice in politics before winning American presidential elections.
He wasn't a novice.
He had never governed somewhere. He had never been a governor. He had never been a mayor.
Barack was a U.S. senator. Are you saying that an American senator is a novice in politics? Certainly not. What I'm saying is, Boris Johnson has never been tested on anything than hosting the Olympic Games in London.
But
And that is why,
and he did that gallantly, right?
and that is why,
Alongside Lord Coe. But these are people who proved so well in the management of the 2012 London Olympics.
yes, if you say he did well because the military had to cover the security failures that came from G4S. So Boris Yeltsin would have been exposed if the military did not come in. Secondly, Boris Johnson has never, as I said, has never been tested on anything. So the fact that Cameroon used a 3-hour presentation in the House of Commons to attack him, and the fact that he comes out to make that kind of declaration is not helpful to the Tories.
You just said of having strong leadership in Europe today to make this union afloat, and I just told you that the leadership in France for the moment, which is the second paymaster general of the European Union, and what the Americans will call Europe's equilibrium provider, which is France, is not in the best shape. So if you are following French politics, in Germany, the lines are being redefined. You know of the strong opposition in Poland today, where such initiatives are equally being taken, and the president of the European Union Council, Donald Tusk, former Polish prime minister, but says that, but you see, we have to keep Britain in the European Union. Why is Europe so in need of Britain, just a single country? Of course, if they leave, there will be 27 other countries, right?
No, you don't need to see it that way. You should understand the importance of Britain within the European society. You should understand the use of this language you and I are speaking now, the English language. You should understand that it's not as great as you think, but it is actually great. So you cannot have a country that attracts billions of tourists all over the world. You cannot have a country that has a strong, foreign policy. It's a nuclear power. It's a world power. It has a common world of nations that it governs. You cannot put them on the same scale with Greece or with Poland. My understanding of the situation is very simple. Some people need to be given some guarantees that Britain can check the inflow of people, of migrants into this country. Britain can protect the NHS. Britain can protect the welfare system. Britain can protect its own people from terror attacks.
But Boris Johnson is not alone. I watched his father the other day, Stanley Johnson, who doesn't adhere to the son's principles. But there are so many members of David Cameron's cabinet who are overtly opposed to this continuous relationship with the European Union.
I will begin by telling you one thing. He should be saying, no matter the outcome of the June referendum, EU-UK relationship will be central stage in British politics for a very long time. I can guarantee you that. Secondly, no matter how the Conservatives, or better still the Tories, intend to teleguide this process, it's going to be a win-win situation.
And how should Jean-Marie Atangana conclude his essay?
He should be saying that it's a conflict of cultures. One person doesn't want to be controlled by Europe, and by extrapolation, the French and the Germans. A real Englishman doesn't want to succumb to that authority. That's the problem. It's not about migration. It's about the way the British want to manage Europe. When they want to say, if we want to get this, we get it. We don't want Sepp Blatter, oh, FIFA is corrupt. We don't want EU president, oh, he's corrupt. We don't want, that's what they want to do. But like I said before, it's a kind of suffering from what my late father used to call monolithic hangover. That period is over.
What does that mean?
Monolithic hangover, where you say conservatism, we don't want to change. We just want to allow it be like that. So that period of saying that we had an empire, or we have an empire where the sun never sets, is over. Now you have to deal with the realities of globalization. Globalization has come with good and bad things. The British people, myself included, should accept that those who are coming in, whether from Syria, whether from Iraq, whether from Cameroon, whether from Nigeria, are contributing to make the British nation great.
And we'll see how that unfolds in the days ahead. Boris, I'm afraid we have to end here. Thank you very much indeed for coming as guest on GlobeWatch. And I should tell my audience that you are leaving tonight back to the UK.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much and have a safe trip.
May that Jesus Christ that brought me here to share this time with you, may Jesus Christ continue to bless you.
My program has believers just like it has non-believers. So I have to deal with an audience which is made up of believers and non-believers. I believe that we should be neutral. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.